question? How's Ingrid today? She's fine, said Ingrid. Open, please, said Dr. Binkerman. He peered inside her mouth, felt around and back where the screws were with his rubbery fingers. Been wearing the appliance? He said. Uh-huh, said Ingrid. Every night? Dr. Binkerman drew back, looking at her whole face for the first time, fingers out of her mouth now so she could speak clearly. Uh-huh, said Ingrid, although every night would be pushing it if by every night Dr. Binkerman meant every single night, night after night after night ad nauseum. Ingrid didn't want to get to the nauseum stage, so she never wore the thing on sleepovers, for example, or when she fell asleep reading, or on Friday nights when she gave herself a regular breather as a reward for getting through the school week. And there might have been other random misses from time to time. She was only human. Still, what business was it of his? Keep it up, said Dr. Binkerman. Keep it up. He said that every time, and every time Ingrid replied, I will. But this time, for no reason, she said, For how long? The words just popping out on their own the way words sometimes did. Mary Jane, sticking x-rays up on the light box, paused for less than a second, just a tiny hitch in her movement. Dr. Binkerman blinked. How long? He said. How long? Had Dr. Binkerman lost track of the whole point of this? Till everything's all straight, she said. Till I'm done. Ingrid had noticed that people's lips often did things when they were thinking. Some people pursed them, some bit them, some sucked them in between their teeth. Dr. Binkerman was a biter. Every case is different, as I mentioned way back at the initial consultation with your parents, he said. You remember that conversation, Ingrid? Ingrid remembered. Mom hovering over morphing mouth schematics on the computer screen, Dad checking his watch. Uh-huh, she said. Then you'll remember there are lots of variables, Dr. Binkerman said. He paused. Like patient cooperation. But all in all, I'd say you are coming along right on schedule. He leaned forward again, pointy silver pliers in hand. Are we due for an adjustment, Mary Jane? Mary Jane glanced at the chart. Overdue. Adjustment meant tightening. Tightening didn't hurt much while it was happening, but every turn of the screw made a squeaky sound that seemed to come from right inside Ingrid's head and reminded her of the Shackleton IMAX movie she'd seen a few weeks before on a class trip. That scene where ice floes slowly crushed the ship to death. Over Dr. Binkerman's shoulder, she saw that Mary Jane was watching. Ingrid read the straight answer to her how much longer question in Mary Jane's frowning eyes. Till hell freezes over. See the receptionist on your way out, said Dr. Binkerman. Ingrid made her next appointment at the reception counter, then looked out the window to see if Mom or Dad was waiting in the parking lot. Mom drove a 3-year-old green Mazda MPV van, an uncool car with uncool bumper stickers that said she supported NPR and the Echo Falls Heritage Committee. Dad drove a silver Audi TT, a very cool car, no doubt about that, with no bumper stickers supporting anything. The only problem being that the TT was really a 2-seater with not much more than shelf space for Ingrid in the back. But shelf space covered in the softest leather Ingrid had ever touched. So it all balanced out. Kind of. Neither car was in the lot. Ingrid hadn't really expected them to be exactly right on time to the minute. Mom and Dad had busy lives. On the far side of the parking lot, a squirrel ran down a branch and leaped to the next tree. 3 yellow leaves came loose and drifted to the ground. Ingrid watched how they landed, intact and undamaged, so softly you could hardly call it landing. She sat back down, reopened 17. Repetitions, meaning how many times you lift the weight. Reps are divided into sets. For example, Ingrid tossed the magazine into the next chair. She knew all this. They had practically a whole gym in their basement at home. Her brother, Ty, her parents had had only one acceptable name in them, and he'd come first, was into sports, and Dad, who was also into sports, especially Ty's, was building him up. Dad was into her sports, too, or sport, since she'd rid herself of hockey, too cold, and softball, too slow, and was now down to soccer, the only one she'd ever liked in the first. Soccer! Ingrid checked the clock on the waiting room wall. 4:10. Practice was at 4:30. She'd completely forgotten soccer practice. Miss a practice, miss a game. That was Coach Ringer's rule number 1. Was there anything more boring than sitting on the bench for a whole game? Other than math class, of course, that went without saying. And could you get around rule number 1 by skipping the punishment game? No, because rule number 2 was miss a game, miss the next game. This had actually happened to Ingrid's friend Stacy Rubino, who'd gotten into a battle of wills with Coach Ringer that had spun into a death spiral of missed games and eventual demotion from the A travel team to the Bs. The Bs, who always inherited the uniforms worn by the As the year before. Say no more. 4:13. Ingrid glanced out the window. No green van, no silver TT. Her cleats, shin pads, and sweats were in her backpack slung over one shoulder and heavy with homework. She went outside to wait in the hope of saving a minute or so. Why? Because being late for practice meant push-ups. Rule number 3. Ingrid stood in the parking lot. No mom, no dad. This would be a good time for a cell phone. Did Ingrid have her own cell phone? She did not. Did Ty have his own cell phone? Yes, he did. Were Mom and Dad's reasons for not giving her one yet anything more than complete BS? They were not. A few more leaves drifted down. Probably 4:15 by now, maybe even later. Ingrid didn't know because her watch, fossil, red face, red band, lay on the complete Sherlock Holmes in her bedroom. Or maybe, in her desk at school. Red was Ingrid's favorite color. Of all the colors, the only one that said color in big letters. What was it now? 4:17, 4:18? Still time to get to the soccer fields. The drive only took a few minutes. You just turned right out of Dr. Binkerman's parking lot, went past Blockbuster and Benito's Pizzeria, the one with the thin crust pizza she liked, and a little spark went off in Ingrid's head. A lively wake-up kind of spark she'd had before. It always meant one thing and one thing only. Inspiration had struck. Inspiration, a thought coming out of nowhere, like the apple falling on Newton's head, and this was a good one. Why not walk to soccer practice? Even though she'd never actually walked from Dr. Binkerman's to soccer practice before, she had to know the way, having been driven there a million times. So what was the big deal about walking? Why hadn't she thought of this before? In fact, why not run? Ingrid ran, turning right out of the parking lot, zipping past Blockbusters and Benito's and over the bridge. Bridge? Funny, she never noticed this bridge before. Maybe you noticed a lot more when you were on foot, like the way the river flowed underneath, sliding along like one long jelly the color of Mom's good silverware when it needed a polish at Christmas, the only time it came out of the drawer. One thing about Ingrid, she could run. She could run, and she loved to run. Look at her fly, assistant coach Trimble, who'd played for a Yukon team that had gone all the way to the NCAA Division I Women's Championship game, would sometimes say. And Coach Ringer, who owned Town Hardware, would reply, "Be nice if she kept her head in the game," or, "When's she gonna learn a move or two out there?" How about this for a move, Ingrid thought, swerving to kick a Coke can over a fire hydrant, catching up to it before it stopped rolling, kicking the can again, then again and again, while she thought, when the hell is Coach Ringer gonna retire? And does the fact that I hear them talking on the sidelines mean he's right and my head's not in the game? And raced faster and faster down a street lined with shabby old gingerbread houses, their paint peeling and windows grimy with... Shabby old gingerbread houses? Whoa! The Coke can clattered into the gutter and came to rest on a sewer grate. The only shabby gingerbread houses Ingrid knew in Echo Falls stood in the flats, the oldest part of town where the shoe factories and railroad yards had been long ago. The soccer fields were up the hill from the hospital, and that was nowhere near the flats. Was it? Ingrid looked around. No hill, no hospital. Just these gingerbread houses in a neighborhood not especially safe, come to think of it. The front door of the nearest one, just about the most decrepit of all, actually crooked to the naked eye, half the roof covered with a blue tarp, opened, and out came a woman with a shopping bag in her hand. A strange woman. She was tall, and even taller in the gold spike heels she wore. What was that word?